Hi everyone, and welcome to my very first knitting podcast. My name is Kate and I am a knitter and crocheter. So let's get started. So a little bit about me and why I decided to start a podcast in the first place. I learned to knit when I was in high school. I taught myself with the then very early YouTube videos. And then I taught myself to crochet several years later when I had finished grad school and was living on my own, had my first job. And for a long time, all that I made were scarves and cowls and baby blankets, which were great things to make. But I ended up with so many of them that I finally decided I wanted to start working on garments in 2019. And I had a lot of false starts making garments. For one thing, I did not understand ease very well, and I particularly did not understand the type of ease that I wanted in my sweaters. I always underestimated the amount of ease that I wanted. I was choosing patterns that did not fit my own individual style, so I would finish them and then they'd be these beautiful sweaters that I didn't want to wear because they didn't match anything else that I owned and they didn't match who I was. But the biggest thing was that I was using the wrong yarn for me. I made a ton of wool sweaters that I would wear once. I would be super uncomfortable in them all day, and so I would never put them on again because I am not comfortable in wool. I have super sensitive skin that gets itchy at even like the slightest provocation, and wool is too much for it. But I felt like wool was what I needed to be using when I was knitting and crocheting because that's what everyone else was using, and it felt like that's what the industry was telling me I needed to be using. So I made tons of things with wool that I just never wore. And finally, after a few years of making these garments that never lasted more than a day, I finally decided, you know what? I am going to stop knitting with wool. And I promise you, I tried it all. I tried superwash merino and regular merino and cashmere and alpaca and all of those things, and they just weren't comfortable for me. You may also be saying, come on, Kate, like you could just wear something underneath it. And in cold climates, that makes a lot of sense. But I live in the southern US, and it's just not cold enough here enough days that it makes sense for me to wear a wool sweater and something underneath it. So wool just doesn't make sense for me and my body and my life. And since I've decided that, I felt like there's a scarcity of information on subbing in non-wool yarns, whether they be cotton or linen or silk or acrylic, for these wool projects, because I still feel like a lot of the knitting industry is focusing on wool, and a lot of the indie dyers who are dyeing gorgeous skeins of things are focusing on wool. And so my goal with this podcast is to share my experiences working with non-wool yarns, and to hopefully be a resource for other people like me who this is just not their fiber of choice for whatever reason it may be. Now, I still work with wool for other people. I have a lot of people that I still make gifts for, and I have a whole lot of wool still in my stash that I bought from indie dyers that is so gorgeous I can't get rid of it yet, but I still don't know what I'm going to do with it because it's sweater quantities. But mostly when I'm making things for myself, I am going to be focusing on non-wool things. So I hope this can help you out, or at least give you some options if you're looking for them. So in this podcast, I'm going to follow a pretty standard format that you see in most knitting and crochet podcasts. So focusing on finished objects, works in progress, and acquisitions. So let's get started. So the only finished object that I have so far is a mariner's cap designed by Two of Wands. This is the second cap that I have made in the last month. It's a really great pattern. I highly recommend it. I have already given it to the recipient, but I got some pictures here. It is such a great pattern. It is so great, in fact, that it is my very first work in progress as well. My dad requested a hat over Christmas break because my parents are taking a trip to Antarctica, and he was like, I want something good and woolly. And I was like, okay, I can make that happen. So I knit him his mariner's cap, and my mom saw it and was like, well, I want one too. So here we are with my mom's mariner's cap. The yarn that I used for both is the Blue Sky Fibers Extra, which is an Aran weight, and it has worked up beautifully, but it comes in 150 grams instead of just 100 gram skein. So I was able to make one hat, and I still had about 50 grams left over. So I started my mom's hat with that overcast gray here, and then decided to add a second blue color, and this colorway is called Mist. So that hers is kind of matching, but also a little bit different. And yeah, it's a really fabulous pattern. I highly recommend it. This yarn is a wool. It's 55% baby alpaca, 45% fine merino, which should be plenty warm for Antarctica, especially with all of the other gear that they're going to have on. So the times that I have made this hat so far have all been rave reviews, so I highly recommend it if you need a hat pattern, especially a quick one. So that is my first work in progress. My second work in progress is my very first sock. I became inspired to try socks with Summer Lee's Knit Stars Masterclass, and it took me a year to finally get to starting it. So this is my first sock, and it's actually my fourth attempt at this same sock. I started it with size 2 needles, thinking I'm a pretty tight knitter. The size 2 will be fine. Cast on the size based on my measurements. It was too big. So on the size 2s, I ripped it all out, started it on the size down, and then decided that I didn't like that gauge, so I needed to switch to size 1 needles. So I had to go buy size 1 needles because I never needed them before. And I ended up with this pair of Chiagu stainless steels. I understand why people really love Chiagus. This is my first pair of Chiagus, and this cord is amazing. This no memory cord is absolutely fabulous. It's a great set of needles, so if you're gonna make socks, I would recommend them. But once I got the size 1 needles, I cast on my size, realized it was still too big, and had to go down another size. So this is actually sock number 4. He seems to be working up pretty well. I'm using Plymouth Yarn's Andy's sock, and I have no idea of the fiber content. I'm sure it's wool and nylon, but it's a really nice self-striping. So it's working up really cute. But because it is on these teeny tiny little needles, it hurts my my wrist when I work with them. So I haven't gotten a whole bunch done quickly because my wrist just gets really tired of working on these teeny tiny little socks. So we'll see how it continues to go. Maybe I should have just stuck with the size 2 for the sake of my wrist. You can also tell that this yarn is very tired of being frogged because it is all nice and scraggly and unwinding and all of that. But I figure it's my first pair. They are going to be homemade socks. My feet don't mind wool as much as the rest of my body, at least with the fact that I've been able to wear smart wool socks before. So yeah, first pair of socks. My third work in progress, my third whip, is the Hotel of Bees shawl. And let me tell you, this has been on my list of things to make for a really long time. I love the book All the Light We Cannot See. I recommend it to people all the time. And so this pattern has been on my list because it's based on one of the places that you see in the book. And it's really gorgeous, and you've got all these bee-themed pieces of it. So it's always been in the back of my mind as something that I wanted to work on. And then when I was in Charlotte, North Carolina with my husband, I went into Queen City Yarns, and they had the yarn that the pattern actually calls for. So I didn't even have to sub anything. It's fabulous. So it uses the Sheepy Stonewash, which is 78% cotton, 22% acrylic, which is perfect for someone like me. It's a really gorgeous yarn. It's got a little bit of a halo on it. The colors have like a nice like tweedy look to them with the, maybe not tweedy, but kind of the mix of the purple and the natural, or the blue and blue-gray and the natural. And so I'm using the colors Axonite as my base color. This one. The Pitilite is the purple one. You can tell them getting to the end of that skein. And then at the other end of the shawl, there's a second accent color, and I've got Smoky Quartz here for that. Really enjoying this yarn. I would absolutely use it again. I have really enjoyed all of the Sheepy's yarns that I've ever worked with. I've worked with their Whirl and Whirlette for several baby blankets. So they're a great little yarn company, and they have a lot of really nice cotton and acrylic yarns. So highly recommend them. I will say though, this is not a mindless project. Every row is different, even if you are in the same section of the pattern, because you're decreasing all along the side. So this was my starting end, and you're decreasing the entire way. So it's not very mindless. So I don't work on it as much as I would like, because school has started back, and I have needed more mindless things the last week or so. But yeah, really gorgeous. And then my last work in progress is a sweater, knit up. I'm going to move my tea so I don't accidentally spill tea on this really pretty shiny yarn. My last work in project is work in progress. Is a Syngonium sweater. The pattern is by Knititude. It's a great pattern, and this is actually the second time that I have made this sweater, because the first time was back in those days when I had no idea what ease was and what I wanted from ease. And so it fit very snugly when I finished it the first time. It was like an orange in a different acrylic, or in an acrylic. Yeah, so it fit very snugly the first time, and then I grew and it no longer fits. So I was like, you know what, I loved that sweater so much, I need to make it again. So here we are. This actually needs to be completely frogged and restarted. I knew that I was going to be short on yarn, so I stuck with a wider gauge than I think I prefer. I think I want to go down in gauge a little bit and then just make a bigger size. It also didn't fit. I literally got to the end here. I was lazy and I didn't try it on, so totally my fault. But I got this bound off and I got to this point on the sleeve and I tried it on and realized that I did not like that, the way that it fit. So I need to go up a size. I need a tighter gauge, which means I go up 2 sizes. Who knows? But luckily a fiber friend of mine was with me and bought an extra skein of the yarn at the same time that I did. So she ended up giving it to me so that I could actually add length. Can't tell when I'm sitting down, but I'm 6 feet tall, so I often need to add length on bodies and sleeves. I didn't do it here because, again, I was going to run out of yarn, but now I have the extra yarn. So the yarn is a bamboo. It is a circular bamboo, which I think is actually mixed with, okay, yeah. So it's 23% cotton, 23% bamboo, and then 54 acrylic. But it's a nice, like, slippery, shiny yarn. It is splitty, but I find that just is, a lot of yarns are splitty when you're not working with wools. So that doesn't bother me as much as I think it bothers others, but I will warn you that it can be a little bit splitty, and I will be interested to see what happens with it once I frog and how it does with the frogging. Yeah, that'll be an interesting experiment with this yarn because it is a little bit splitty. It's not super tightly spun. So, and I might frog this and decide to make a different pattern with it, because I've also got my eye on Knititude's Easy Eyelet Yoke. Her patterns are really great. She is a great pattern writer for sweaters, so especially if it's your first sweater, or you're just getting in, it's like your first raglan or your first yoke or whatever. She writes really great patterns for beginners, so anybody, but specifically beginners. So I would highly recommend checking out Knititude and her patterns. So those are all of my works in progress that I am actively working on. So there are plenty of others that are in timeout somewhere, but these are the ones that are active thought processes. All right, so last thing to talk about is acquisition. So again, it's the beginning of the year, so I'm not trying to buy a ton of yarn, but I did buy several skeins from Knit Stars. So these first three are Knit Stars Loops Luxe Plant-Based Princess. I have had my eye on this type of yarn forever. It is exclusive to the Knit Stars store, which was in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They've decided to close their brick and mortar. And so right now they're just an online store, and I'm not sure how much of their exclusive yarns they're going to keep selling after they sell out of their existing stock. So if you want to try these, go now. I think everything is on sale, and they are just selling until they run out of things. But it is 70% cotton, 20% bamboo, and 10% hemp. And one of the things that I really loved about the Knit Stars store, even though I never got to go in person, they always recommended patterns to go with the yarns that they sold you. So you never had to buy a yarn without any idea what type of thing you were going to make with it. And so on their website, they've got some recommendations for things to make with this yarn specifically. So I bought sweater quantities of all three of these colors. And this was cottonwood. Let's see. Yeah, cottonwood, copper downspout, which is kind of a burnt orange, and then eat your greens. So I have sweater quantities of all three of these. I'm really excited to work with them because, again, I've had my eye on them for a while. But if it's something that you're interested in, go soon, just in case, and which is why I bought so much of it all at once. Yeah. So the other thing that I bought from Knit Stars was 3 skeins of their Loops Luxe Chunky, which is a royal alpaca and a silk blend. And I bought this because I made a gift for Christmas. They call their effin' scarf. And it was a really easy pattern, and it ended up really beautiful. And of course, the alpaca and the silk makes it soft for normal people. I actually was like, okay, maybe I could make a sweater out of this alpaca blend. And I did the test where you like tie some to your bra strap to see how it feels against your skin. And within like 10 minutes, I was like, no, can't do it. Which was really sad because it is a really gorgeous yarn, and it's a nice thick weight. I think they call it bulky. This is their Loops Blue, which is kind of like a Tiffany blue. I also worked with the like cream color before. But again, I'm not sure what they have left. So if you want to try it, go check it out soon. And then the last thing that I bought was some new tags for when I make gifts, because I love having something that says like this is from me, so that down the road you will know this was like handmade from someone who cared about you. So I got these tags. I'll post a picture if you can't really see them, but they're little fold over tags. And on one side they say "With love, Kate." And then on the other side, they have a cute little cat yarn ball. I'm a cat lady. I'm not gonna hide it. But yeah, I got these and the rivets from a shop on Etsy called, what are they called? National Etching. And I'll link them below. But these are super cute because they have the rivets. They are so easy to put on at the end of a project. You don't have to, I had tags before that I had to sew on, and it was just, that tiny little extra step was always like slightly frustrating. Not hard, but I'm a little lazy, so I didn't do it. But I really love these, and I will probably order them again when I run out. But they are fabulous. They're really great for hats. Really great to go in the corner of a blanket. I don't tend to put them on my own makes that like are for me, just on gifty things. But yeah, highly recommend National Etching on Etsy. So yeah, so that's all I've got. Oh, I can't remember if I said I got the logo, the little clip art here from Canva. So Canva's a great place if you want to make your own like logo for the things that you make. Yeah. Well, that's all that I've got today. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you got some knitting and crocheting in yourself. And I hope you'll join me again in a few weeks when I put out another one and hopefully have some more finished objects to share with you. Thanks so much and happy knitting!